Achieving infinite scroll using Scrapy and Playwright can be a little bit tricky. If you don't understand the basic concepts, you will almost always have problem going beyond at least one page. Let's look at this code. We have a Scrapy request with Playwright set to true. And in the parse method, I'm simply yielding all the codes which are available on the first page. Right now, if I go to this page, and if I look at this, there are 10 codes, right? So let's press F12 and create a selector, Control F or Command F, div.code. This is my selector. And here you can see that there are 10 codes. Now what happens when I scroll down? Scroll down, there is a pagination which has triggered. And now the number of codes on this page has jumped to 20. If I scroll down further, again there is a page. Again there is a new page which has loaded. Now if I look at the code count, it has reached 30. Now remember this approach because this is going to be very important. Network tab is not going to be very important when you're working with Playwright, but these elements, these selectors, they are going to play a crucial role. Now we know that Playwright supports page methods. If you don't know what are page methods, I'll highly recommend that you watch the previous video that I posted, link in the description. Now we can create certain page methods. And how do we send these page methods? We can simply say playwright underscore page underscore methods. We can create this as a new key for the meta. Remember, all the Playwright keys are going to begin with playwright underscore something that's easy to remember. Secondly, we see that it is page methods. That means it is more than one. It's a list. And this contains individual page methods. Anyway, what we are going to do is we are going to wait for selector. If we are loading this page for the first time, then what we are waiting for? We are waiting for any of the code to appear, right? Very simple. Now there is one change that I am going to make here. Instead of waiting for any code, let me look for a specific code. On the first page, there are 10 codes, right? What I can do is I can use this nth child selector and I can wait for code number 10. This ensures that there are 10 codes located on the page before it proceeds further. Now to scroll down one screen, what we can do is we can use JavaScript. Yes, we can inject certain JavaScript using page method. One of the page method is evaluate. If you use evaluate, then we can inject JavaScript. What kind of JavaScript we are talking about? Let me show you. Now I'm on console. Console is where you execute your test JavaScript. Now first of all, we want to determine what is the current height of the page. That we can do by accessing the document, then body, and looking at the scroll height. Now we know that this is the scroll height for this particular page. Now what we can do is we can call one more JavaScript method, and this one is window.scrollBy. Now it expects two parameters. I'm executing this line. You will see that it scrolls a little bit, but we have a very specific value that we want to scroll, right? Instead of 10, I'm going to say that scroll to the bottom of the page. There we go. Now we have scrolled to the bottom of the page, and which triggered a pagination event. Now we are on page number 4. Now this page number 4 is being printed by the website code. Don't worry about that. Now again, as I execute this code again and again, it jumps to the bottom and a new page is loaded. This is how all the websites will work. You scroll down to the bottom and a new page will be loaded. And you can mimic that by executing this JavaScript. Now what we can do is we can copy this JavaScript and we can inject it in our Playwright Python code. Remember that these page methods execute one by one. This page method will execute, and now we are saying that we want one more page method, and if you want to execute any JavaScript, then the method you have to use is evaluate. And which JavaScript code we want to execute? This one, which we just created. This code will ensure that you are actually scrolling to the bottom of the page. Now after scrolling down, the new page will load. And remember, I showed you that if the next set of codes are loaded, now there are 20 codes, right? What we can do is we can copy this line and we can paste it here. But this time we are saying that wait until there are 20 quotes. First of all, the page will load and we are going to wait for this selector. Which selector? The quote number 10. If you are not comfortable writing CSS selectors, I will again link a video where I have talked about how to write these CSS selectors. After that, we are going to scroll to the bottom and then we are going to wait for the quote number 20 to appear. That's all we are doing. This code is not going to change. Let's run this code and let's see. Scrapy crawl, and the name that I have given to this spider is crude because this is a crude method, and I'll show you something better. The page opens. We can see that the item scrape count is 20. What if you want to scrape, let's say 100 quotes? What you will have to do, remember, this is not an optimal method. You can copy these two lines and paste it again. Again, what we are doing here, after the 20 quotes are loaded, again we will scroll, and after that we'll wait for 30 quotes, and then we'll have to copy this line once more and again scroll and 40. You can already see that this is a very bad method. It's not a good method because every time you have to scroll, you will have to repeat your code. Now let's look at the other method. I'm back to the original spider. Now this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to set one more interesting property, and this one is Playwright include page as true. Now when would you need this? This is very important because I've seen some confusions. Now what this will do is it will make sure that when the parse method executes, the page object of Playwright is accessible directly. There are few changes that we have to do. Number one, how do you access the page object? The page object is not directly available. We'll have to read it from response. Now, can you guess the key that response will have, right? Remember, I told you that all the keys will begin with, and what is the key name? Page. Simple. Now you have access to the page object. You can directly execute anything that you want to do on this page. But before we continue, there are few more things that we need to take care. Number one, when you want to use the page method, you'll have to use async API. You'll have to make this async. Secondly, you will have to make sure that you are closing the page. How do you close the page? So await page.close. Simple method. Here we are reading the page, and in this block we'll do whatever we want to do with the page object, but we need to make sure that we are closing it. Now there is one last thing before we continue, is that we'll have to define one more method, and this is called errorback or errorback. In this example I have skipped callback because default callback is parse. Similarly, we have errorback. We can give this any name, but essentially I just want to close the page. I'm just going to call it close page. Let's define it. Let me collapse it for a moment. Now this is also going to be async. Define close page, and this will not receive the response. This will receive the error. Now from the error we need to get the page. How do we get page from this error? What you have to do is from error you need to get the request, and from the request you can get the meta, and this is of course playwright underscore page. This is going to be your page, and sometimes this variable name, sometimes you will see this as error, sometimes you will see this as failure, but it doesn't really matter what you call it. Now once you have access to the page method, you'll have to close this. Now the question is, if you don't do this, what? Then every time you run the spider and the page does not exit properly, if the page is not closed properly, it will start consuming your RAM. Your RAM will start filling up. That's why it's a good practice to close this. It's not mandatory. It's a good practice if you don't want to run out of memory. So let's come back here. We are ready to use the page. What do we want to do with this page? See, in the previous example, what we did is we called these page methods. We said wait for selector, wait for 10th quote. Then we said scroll down, and then we said now this time wait for 20. I'm just going to do this, but I'll do it in a loop. Let's say it's a simple loop. For I in range, I want to scrape 10 pages, but I'm already on first page. Maybe I will start my range from 2 and go up to 11. 11 will be skipped. I'll be on page number 10. Now what I want to do is I want to count how many quotes I have. Let's call this quote count. The first time there will be 10, and then I can probably multiply this by I. This is important to understand. Let me walk you through this, what we have done so far. When this request was sent originally, we said that wait for, let's make it nth child 10. We are saying that wait for the 10th quote. Then this parse method, it will be executed. Range is starting from 2. Now we are saying that now I want to wait for 20 quotes. How do I do that? If you want to do something with page, you'll have to use await. Wait for selector. I just want to wait for selector. Which selector? I've already created this. I'm going to simply copy this. But instead of 10, I want this quote count. I'll make it f string, and in the braces, I'll put quote count. What it will do, it will wait for 20 quotes, right? Now let me collapse some of the code. Now I'm going to scroll. How do I scroll? So await page.evaluate, right? This page.evaluate, this page.wait for selector, these are the same methods. Here we were using the page method class. Now this page method class is actually part of Scrapy Playwright. It will call wait for selector and it will send this parameter. It will call this page method page.evaluate and it will give this parameter. In fact, let me copy this to save time. And here I'm going to say that scroll down, send this JavaScript, and this JavaScript is actually going to scroll down. Let me move it like this. Now this makes sense. When the page is loaded for the first time, it will directly scroll down. There will be 20, then the loop will again run and again and again and so on. And after that, the page will be closed. But if I run this code right now, it is still not going to work. I did one typo. It has to be response.meta. You have to extract from meta. I'm executing this spider again and I'll show you what happens. It will open the browser. There we go. You'll see the scrolling. I'm not going to forward this. You saw that there was some scrolling. We can see here it jumped to page number 10. But if I look at item scrape count, it is still 10. We scroll down, but still not scraping. Do you know the reason? The reason is that whatever we did it with the page object. Our response object is the same that was loaded for the first time. When there were only 10 quotes, now we have scrolled the page, but we are not reading the source from the page again, right? That's why this response is not going to work. What we have to do is we have to create a new selector based on this page source. Now, how do we get the page content or page HTML? It's actually very simple. We'll just say await page.content. It's a method. Of course, do it before I close the page. Otherwise, after closing the page, there is no content. It will let it execute. It will scroll 10 times and after that, it will read the page content. And of course, this will be my HTML. This is my updated HTML. And then I can close the page. I don't need the page. Now, if I want to use the same Scrapy style of code, then what I'll have to do, I will have to create a selector. Let's create a selector and set the text to this HTML. This is going to return an object of selector. Like I'm just using S and that should be sufficient. And if you have not imported this, this is part of scrapy.selector with S small. Now, instead of response, just look for S, right? Let's see, does it work this time? I'm running this spider once more and you will see that the browser will open. There we go. Browser opens, scrolling, and there we go. And there we go. 100 items, all scraped. I hope you learned something from this video. As always, the source code will be in the description. If you want to revise the concepts of Playwright, I'm linking that video. The other video that I would highly recommend is the video which I posted just before this, where I talked about page methods. That's all for now. I'll see you in the next one.